So welcome everyone to the 12-Step Big Book Workshop. My name is Lisa and I am a student of the 12 Steps Method of Recovery. And my focus fellowships are CODA, Al-Anon, and OA. I'm really happy you guys are back. Hope you all had a fantastic holiday. And tonight we will be looking at our dishonesty. So please join me in the set-aside prayer with the willingness and the desire to have an open mind and open heart with the gift of honesty as we tackle the end of our fourth step to release the source of our fear and dishonesty. So God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, my step 4 work, and my dishonesty, so that I may have a new experience with my honesty, my habit of hiding, and especially with you. So this is your personal journey, each and every one of you. And at this point, I think we're more than halfway through the workshop. And tonight we'll be finishing up step 4 by looking at the final pages of pages 70 and 71 to conclude. And for me, step 4 was very instrumental in my recovery and spiritual awakening path. Finding out that I was 100% responsible was more than a game changer for me. It was life altering. And at first, we may not be thrilled to hear things weren't as they seemed, but I was thrilled that things weren't what they seemed because I was a victim to everyone and everything. And it was a very difficult way to maneuver through this wonderful gift of life. At the time, I was not aware that I was in a spiritual awakening, but I was aware of the work I had been doing and not really expecting any radical changes, just perhaps an easier time of trying to live my unmanageable life. But in time, it was unmistakable and an organic change happened. Not all at once, but in increments that added up. When I look back in hindsight, I can really see them. And I just put this little quote up by JFK. The great enemy of truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, pervasive, and unrealistic. And that's the real nuts and bolts. It's not so much the lie, but it's the myths that we live, the things that we tell ourselves to be okay in our own lives or in our own situations or even with our own decisions. Those are the things that we need to look at. So when we say dishonesty, it doesn't mean I lied about how many cupcakes I ate. It's really more about the lies that we tell ourselves. So no matter how you do this work, you cannot do it wrong unless you choose to not do it at all. And even if you choose to not do it at all, you're not doing it wrong. If you're showing up and you're getting the information, you're at least getting some of that into your experience. And my experience has been that the more I apply and do the work, the more I advance and the better my life internally becomes. And then that shows up on the outside of my life. After the workshop ends, your work will continue until you have completed your 9th step. And you have seen that what you were doing was the same in the fear inventory with identical words, same in the sex inventory, identical words, and you hopefully have a specific time to finish your 4th step and be very specific with what your plan is. And the reason I say that you should try to plan your finish is because we are going to finish this workshop and then perhaps, most likely, we'll start again. But it's important to finish each workshop all the way to the end because there's a cohesiveness that goes with this session of 12 steps that we're all doing. And when we each do the next set of our 12 steps, we come from a different place and we come with different information because we've peeled the layers of the onions. So yes, we will finish the workshop, but the best gift you can give yourself is to continue doing the work and trying to finish this in a timely manner so that you can get on with your life, or perhaps to get on with your next set of 12 steps. It's a never-ending story, so to speak. On page 70, Bill continues with, if we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. Now, thorough does not mean it has to be perfect, of course. There may be some details overlooked, and those will come out when you do your fifth step, but it is enough whatever you have done. And what you will do is enough this time. He also goes on to say, we have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. This is Bill's way of summing up the suggestions he has given us thus far regarding step 4. So he says, we have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. Bill is referencing the prayer for the removal of deep resentment that invokes the much-needed change in our attitudes. This prayer says they are sick, and that is probably likely obvious to us about them, but we judge them anyways. Bill's very next comment in this section is that we are also sick, just like them too. We also realize that some of our resentments were actually projections of what we thought, felt, and did onto the ones we resented. And in fact, that they never did the harm to us that we had estimated, fancied, or real. We listed the people whom we have harmed by our conduct, and we are now willing to straighten out our pasts when we can. Thich Nhat Hanh says, much of our suffering comes from wrong perceptions. To remove that hurt, we have to remove our wrong perceptions. So that's this little picture here. You know, at first glance, we see a man and a woman, but when we look closer, we see two women and a man, and the man is playing his little guitar or whatever that is, which is just an example of we think we see what we think we see, and sometimes we are not even close. Our perceptions are colored. On page 70, Bill says, in this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. If you weren't paying attention, you might not have seen that last sentence. And it seems like we're at the end of the chapter and we just move on, but that's a really important sentence. So let's take a look at it. Bill is essentially letting us know that steps 2 and 3 are an act of faith, and that our practice of meditation, prayer, and our awareness of powerlessness with the words that we use will get us to this holy place. Bill wrote that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. Not only did that reveal to us our resentments, fears, risky sexual behaviors, misfires, and mistakes, but it also gave us directions on how to remove the resentments and fears and to address and define our past or current problematic sexual behaviors. In all these sections, we were guided to pray as that was Bill's final tool. Of course, we can list it, describe it, and define it, and eventually even analyze it. But when it is, in fact, so deeply embedded, Bill reminds us that we are as powerless over our resentments as we are over our addictions. So the natural course is to pray. The implication is that we have no power and no choice whatsoever. Bill implies it in the fear part of the inventory, with the final suggestion being to pray for the removal of our fear. Bill is less expansive at first, but then he returns to being more expansive in the sexual behaviors inventory. In my opinion, Bill gives this more attention, being that he was a serial cheater and he had a lot of sexual behaviors as his major discrepancies. He said, not only do we pray for the ideal because we can't achieve it on our own, but that also we can't see the truth, and that once we put together our ideal sex criteria, we then pray to have the power and the strength to live up to it. And again, we are just as powerless over our newly found sexual concepts as we are over our addiction. But even more importantly, we are powerless over our behaviors, while in alignment with our sexual behavior ideals as we are over our own addictions. So back on page 70, in this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. Isn't this the definition of a spiritual awakening? The realization that we are not in control and that there was a power greater than ourselves that is. This is a critical change on the deepest level of our beings. A change so great it affects the way we think and feel, but especially how we behave. A transformative turning around to a new direction. With all the work we may have tried, the classes we may have taken, and the therapy we may have paid for, this 12-step work will get us to the finish line and beyond, quicker and better than any other method. Maybe you've been feeling it, or maybe you haven't, but I would suspect you certainly have wondered about it. You hear it talked about in meetings, workshops, and in books. Maybe you're thinking to yourself that it hasn't happened for you yet, but it will if you stay the course. We haven't even gotten to the 12th step, or the 9th step really, because we did 10, 11, 12. But don't give up. Don't turn around. Don't return to where you are. Just keep moving forward. On page 71, he says, we hope you are convinced that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from your higher power. In steps 2 and 3, we saw the idea that we have a ray of hope deep down inside of ourselves, the sunlight of the spirit. We all have that. It's the spark of our Creator. Bill said, God is or God isn't. God is everything or God is nothing. We are always a part of the Creator, the force of life that is the source of everything. And once you turn your life over to this higher power, your life unfolds exactly as it is supposed to, without the struggle or the control we have tried using in the past. Because we are the powerless ones. We need to put our trust in that power that we expand to lay all trust in. Wayne Dyer said, you will see it when you believe it, not the other way around of, I will believe it when I see it, meaning proof first, belief second. If you don't believe it, you will never see it. Your mind has blocked out the possibilities in its doubt. So keep that in mind. I want to believe it because that's when I'll see it. So pain brought us through the doors of the 12-step program when we took step 1 so that we would reach out in desperation, our threshold of our powerlessness. In steps 2 and 3, we made the choice and made a decision through faith. Bill says it did for us what we could not do for ourselves. Faith is the decision. It's the only decision. It's the conscious choice to let go and let whatever is in power to lead your way. To choose faith does not require a religious commitment or understanding. Faith is a state of mind. It is nowhere outside of ourselves, and yet it is everywhere. At the end of the 4th step, Bill implies that we may have had some experience of identifying and getting some relief from our sources, meaning our addictive behaviors and habits. And those sources block the sunlight of the spirit from shining on us and giving us our relief. A cloud of resentment, fear, dishonesty, and our unhealthy sexual behaviors block the sunlight to the spirit. The light versus the darkness. We do not judge ourselves for these behaviors. We are just observing the facts. We look on with interest and see the truth they have hidden, good, bad, or indifferent. There is no judgment. Bill then says on page 71, we hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. The hope Bill is conveying is that our clouds of darkness that it get in our way of having a relationship with that light is the awakening of leaving our darkness behind effectively. He says if you have already made a decision, which of course we did in step 2 and 3 really, when we answered that question of whether God is or not, which is not so clear in the beginning steps as it is embedded in the instructions for step 4. And an inventory to follow of our grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning, which confirms that we need to address the shark bites, not the mosquito bites. Grosser meaning large and not lucky, for anyone that's not sure, but our larger issues. These misbehaviors pave the path to addiction and the need to deal with subtle transgressions of our principles being out of alignment, all of which created our darkness and our suffering. Okay, so yes, Bill, I would say that we have made a good beginning, but we are in it for good. There is no ending. It is a lifetime journey, which is where step 10 comes in for those things that crop up on a daily basis. But this is a very solid and beneficial beginning on our path to recovery. You have all observed and uncovered a tremendous amount of truths, and now you are about to begin the disclosure that comes in the next step. But it's not as hard as the fourth step. And we must remember the purpose of this process. It's to identify and remove or have removed the impediments and obstacles to a relationship with the power deep down inside of us. So we ask ourselves if we have experienced guilt, shame, embarrassment, dishonesty, secrets, irresponsibility, whether that's being financial and relationships, our behaviors, or the way family is treated and or at work. This is a psychological process which, by naming it and analyzing it with another person before you do the fifth step, might eliminate for you a whole bunch of stuff in your life, while at the same time, Bill says, if that doesn't work to your satisfaction, meaning the removal of the tension from the resentment, fear, and dishonesty, that you pray for it and it will be removed from your path. So we do this in partnership with our higher power. We do what we can. We don't just sit by idly waiting for something to come down and magically happen. We have to put our feet in motion and be part of this process. It is not going to happen without us, and it's not going to happen without our higher power, but it will happen together. So the big book being written in 1939, it did not include guilt and shame, and that hasn't been changed in any substantial way, as guilt and shame were not readily used words for that time. What does it mean to feel guilt? Guilt is a moral emotion that occurs when a person believes or realizes, accurately or not, that they have compromised their own standards of conduct or have violated universal moral standards and bear significant responsibility for that violation. Shame is the painful emotion of feeling fundamentally flawed or unworthy, believing you are a mistake rather than that you have made a mistake. This deep-seated belief of being a bad person rather than just doing bad things isolates us, but it's a common experience rooted in trauma and the disease itself, not a true reflection of our self-worth. Experiences like neglect, abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, or sexual, abandonment, or growing up in dysfunctional families often instill deep shame, leading children to internalize blame. Shame develops into a core belief that I am broken or I am worthless, not just that I made a mistake. Feeling inherently flawed or unworthy pushes individuals to use substances to escape or numb these painful emotions. This increased shame makes seeking help harder as we feel undeserving, trapping us in a loop of using and self loathing. The purpose of guilt is to tell us that our moral standards have been compromised. Guilt can be good for us and that it is adaptive and helps us connect with others. Guilt can also have negative consequences, especially if we feel too much responsibility or empathy for others, also known as codependent behavior. Taking honest action appropriate to the situation is the best way to alleviate guilt. Most of us feel guilt from time to time, and it can be a deeply unpleasant experience. But why do we feel guilty so easily? What purpose does it serve? Guilt alerts us that our moral standards have been somehow violated. It is a feeling of remorse over something terrible that we contributed to or ignored, which explains why so many people feel guilty just watching the news. People differ in how easily they feel guilt based on their personality and their life experiences. So, guilt is often contrasted with shame, which is described as self demonization. When you feel guilty, you think that you did something wrong. When you feel shame, you feel that there is something wrong with you for doing that thing. While shame is really useful and often leads to social withdrawal, guilt may have either positive or negative consequences. You can experience guilt relating to various life circumstances. We also experience guilt when we do something we should not have done. Guilt tells us that our behavior may have conflicted with our values or our sense of right and wrong. It can be a useful signal that motivates us to take responsibility, apologize, make amends, and connect with others by helping us recognize harm that we've caused. But guilt can also be maladaptive, stemming from excessive self criticism or feelings of responsibility for things we couldn't control and can negatively impact our self worth. So, dishonesty is a big deal for me and for many in Step 12 programs. Dishonesty can come in many forms, and until we do this work, we don't understand that. Despite all the learning we have had around it, it can be at the heart of our character defects, our hiding, the camouflage we use to misrepresent ourselves through dishonesty. We have anger and fear, and a lot of that turns out to be shame. Shame is the motivated to become dishonest. We become chameleon like. If our environment is purple, we become purple. If it is green, we become green. When we behave this way, we are being dishonest. If we are actually yellow or red, we have to show up as yellow or red. It is self misrepresentation, also known as dishonesty, to show up as anything other than our true selves. Bill says, that being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourselves. I really focused on the word digested on page 71 because digestion takes time. It is not a rushed process. It moves at its own pace, and I have found the same to be true for most people in this process. We who are working through the 12 steps of recovery to freedom have this in common. Bill says, swallowing and digestion, big chunks of emotional truth, just takes time. Trying to rush the process will only lead to overexhaustion, emotional numbness, frustration, and feelings of hopelessness. So please don't feel the need to rush through any of this. When Bill says, that being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself, he means that a person has fully accepted difficult realities about their own flaws and behaviors. And that can be a big pill to swallow. This phrase appears at the end of the instructions for the fourth step, which call for a searching and fearless moral inventory. Swallowing and digesting means you become honest in your self-awareness. You have moved past denial and rationalization to acknowledge your grosser handicaps and character defects, such as selfishness, dishonesty, and fear. Swallowing and digesting basically means acceptance. Acceptance that we have integrated this new knowledge into the understanding of ourselves, rather than merely observing it or rejecting it. It involves breaking through our denial to face the facts about substance or process abuse and the impact it has had on our health, relationships, and life in general. And I love this quote by Michael J. Fox. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means understanding that something is what it is and there's got to be a way through it. And I think he is probably the poster boy for acceptance for the life that he has lived. He's done a truly amazing, miraculous job. So, willingness to change. The acceptance of these truths is a crucial foundational step that prepares us for the subsequent actions required for recovery in the coming steps 5 through 9. When Bill mentions willingness to change, he means opening your mind to new ideas and actions, accepting that you need help, and taking small steps even if it's uncomfortable. To let go of self-will and turn life over to a higher power, while realizing that true, lasting change requires active participation in accepting life's challenges, not just wishing for things to be different. It's about moving from just wanting a better life, to actively doing the hard work, which is the willingness, which is a key step in recovery and personal growth. Willingness is right at the top of mindsets that you really need to get through this life after having been part of a 12-step program. You just really have to be willing, and you really have to be willing to change. But willingness will get you halfway there. So this is a process. This is your journey, not to be rushed. You should not be working on anything other than the steps you're on. If you rush through steps or become hasty in any way, it is very likely that you will not have a firm foundation for your recovery. Each step builds on the other. You cannot begin framing a house while the cement of the foundation is still wet. Bill says, in reference to the first 5 steps of recovery, that if you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning for the first 5 steps. And we're all trying to figure out where the end is. We're still in the beginning. Rushing to get to the next step only gets you to the next step unprepared for what that step entails. If we aren't prepared by thoroughly focusing on the step we are studying, we will not get the full effect and may subject ourselves to relapse by slipping back into our poor behaviors. We all want to see ourselves as honest, but also want personal gain. So we use justifications to bridge that gap, allowing for little cheats that add up to significant societal dishonesty. Addiction needs dishonesty to survive. Lying may become a defense mechanism when someone confronts. Instead of taking responsibility for our own actions, we might lie about where we've been, what we've been doing, where our money has gone, and other aspects of our life. These lies are used to justify the dishonesty so it can continue. The life of an addict tends to involve telling one lie after another and more lies to cover previous lies. The most damaging of all will be the lies that the addict tells themselves. It is only when the evidence of destructiveness of our behavior becomes too overwhelming to ignore that most will develop a willingness to change. Honesty is what finally leads people into recovery, and it is this that then keeps them there. Practice expressing your feelings and needs honestly without resorting to lies. Talk to your sponsor or a therapist or join a group to address the underlying reasons for your self deception. Be patient and persistent with yourself. This was a survival tactic. We can't fault ourselves for needing to survive, but we can change a behavior that is no longer needed. The truth will always set you free, and we can't be honest with anyone if we are not honest with ourselves to begin with. Remember, good reasons for lying do not justify the lie. It is still a lie, no matter what we tell ourselves to make it feel okay. The path to recovery is not just a function of time. Time heals all wounds is an overly simplistic myth. Time is simply a function of healing. It is not the healer. Healing and recovery often take intentionality and a willingness to rely on this process. Sometimes when walking or hiking on a new path, it seems like the path is leading us in the opposite direction of our intended destination, or sometimes it feels like we are going in circles. Without a compass, it is hard to tell the direction. Similarly, the recovery process has moments that seem like one is moving away from recovering from our true selves. And I believe that the path and the process to freedom is to be trusted. This goal is continuous improvement and growth. It is not a sudden transformation or a return to a past version of ourselves. Shifting from self-criticism to understanding and kindness is crucial for motivation and recovery. This continued growth is not just about avoiding substance or process use. It's about becoming the best version of yourself that you can. The goal is to keep moving forward, learning from setbacks, and celebrating successes, no matter how small they may seem. Setbacks are normal and inevitable. It is how we learn and confirm that what we are doing is in our best interest that really matters. This process requires a lot of grace, particularly for ourselves. There are times during recovery when it seems like it is 3 steps forward and 2 or 3 steps back. Even this feeling is part of the process of healing, and meeting these starts and stops with grace for yourself is crucial. Allowing grace is a core requirement in addiction recovery, meaning it's a gradual journey of small steps, learning from setbacks, and celebrating growth rather than aiming for an impossible, flawless state, which prevents shame and contributes to a continuous improvement supported by allowing grace. The 12-step recovery process encourages persistence over unattainable ideals and acknowledging that mistakes are always opportunities for learning. They are not failure. So that is the end of my presentation, and I would love to hear from people. It's been a couple weeks. I want to see where people are at, if we're having any struggles with some of the work that we're doing, or have questions. If people want to raise their hands and speak, that would be wonderful. If people don't have questions, that's okay too. But I would really love to hear where you guys are headed, or where you've been, or how your holiday was, or whatever you want to talk about. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Hi, Mark.
Yeah, I'm doing okay, but I got to be honest, I feel like I'm way behind with the homework because the assignment today for that had like the turkey and all that, I didn't make a dent on that whatsoever. But
Okay.
but I think like what I need to say to kind of like get complete is I what I have been doing is I've been doing five the whole time because I have a regular like sort of like sharing partner.
Okay.
So I've been as we've been working on the stuff, I've been sharing it. So I've been doing that kind of four and five as we've been doing it. And
Okay.
I've been kind of focused during the break on doing like the fear train and I did some relationships and I kind of like I don't know that I did new stuff because I I have a pretty chaste existence, so I just used the ones that I did have, which were actually very useful with the format that Herb has, because I was able to see things that I hadn't seen before, which I thought was really sort of like powerful. Um,
Good.
Especially because some of the questions I think around the relationships were very repetitive. So there was no way I could get out of like responsibility if that makes sense. Like
Hmm.
found that probably previous times I had more of the story where I could kind of like, for example, like I mentioned, I talked about two girlfriends, and it's basically the same thing. Like it was
Hmm.
like one like I could see like I was blaming one like I dumped her when I first came into recovery the first time, and I could see that I was blaming her for my acting out. And then with the other one, I acted out in another addiction, but it was still like I could really see with the questions in the format that you assigned that really in both situations I had kind of like not really seen my responsibility um, in either the relationships ending or even not getting my needs met, if that made sense. In both relationships, I didn't get my needs met, which actually wasn't okay. Um, and I didn't see that, but I could see that for the different questions, if that makes sense. And then on the other
Hmm.
side of the street, my part I hadn't seen it all. So it was like a 50-50 thing. There was this whole part where I wasn't getting what I wanted, which is frustrating me and causing resentment, which is why it was sort of like a weird thing. And I think the other thing that kind of like came up with the assignments is I think I'm a little bit not really sure with the resentments if I have anymore. So I'm kind of tempted to just like explore the fears. Like I think I have way more fears. So I'm
Okay.
gonna do a bunch of fears and I don't know what else to say, but that'll pretty much be caught up. And I think one more thing, I think what I want to try to attempt to do is maybe the stuff that was supposed to be done today, I guess try to do it this week. But other than that, I still feel like I'm behind. So yeah.
Well, so that's a very common statement in these types of workshops. And what I tell people is if you're showing up and you participate and you get your questions answered and you're not really struggling with the actual work that we're doing in the on the night of the workshop, you're doing enough. Now, as far as the homework goes, it's it's there so that you can go as far as you want to go with this information. And if you don't have time to dedicate to doing that, you're at least showing up every week. You're in the room, you're hearing the information, you're getting the gist, you're getting what Bill is trying to tell. And that's the most important thing. All this extra peripheral stuff that we're doing, Bill wasn't even doing that in the program worked. So don't get caught up in, oh, I'm behind, or I don't have enough time. Just keep going at the pace you're going at. The point is, the only way to fail this workshop or this program or this way of life is to not do anything, is to just give up. because when we give up, we're going to really slide back. So a lot of people go to maybe a weekly meeting or a couple meetings a week. Some people do just a workshop as a meeting because you need to have that touching of the base that you need. You need to be in that room where you can really explore and hear other people's stuff going on. So do not stress over the homework. Absolutely, if you're not done with step 4, keep going. Keep going with step 4. I know people that a year later, after the workshop has ended, are still doing their step 4s. So that what you're experiencing is not unusual at all. It's actually quite expected, and it's definitely acceptable. The step 4 work, I think, is the hardest work. So when we try to get through step 4, it slows everything down. It almost comes to a halt. So if you're experiencing that, don't worry. Show up for the workshop, do the work that you're at, whatever lesson you're on or whatever week you're on. And if at some point you feel like, I feel like I'm missing the other steps because I'm stuck on this one, put it aside. It doesn't have to be done all at once. It doesn't have to be all done today. It doesn't have to be all done this year. It has to be what you need. And if you need to skip over a little bit to stay where you're comfortable and get what you need out of it, then that's your process. This is a suggested process. It's suggested homework. In fact, as the workshop's been going along, I have been taking out some of the stuff that people need to do because it is a lot. It's especially a lot this time of year. So do your best. Whatever you're doing is 100 times better than what you were doing before you're doing what you're doing now.
Can you
So
work on
it's a vast improvement. Go ahead, Joel.
can you work on step 4 all the time while you're working on the other steps as well?
Absolutely. What some people do is they'll dedicate a time. I'm going to I have 2 hours this week. I'm going to spend an hour on my 4th step, and I'm going to spend an hour on the current lesson that we're on. Because the 4th step is so involved, so heavy duty. Most people do not. No, nobody does their 4th step in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever we've spent on this. No way. I mean, I have people, I work with people, one-on-one. They're still doing last year's 4th step. It's not unusual at all. It took me 2 years to get through my 4th step the first time. 2 years. It was very difficult. There's a lot in there that we have to
Sometimes
look
you don't
at.
even sometimes you don't even realize your resentments until
Exactly.
something comes across your mind 6 months after you've even thought about it. I mean,
Exactly.
things, it's impossible.
It's like sitting down with a stack of mail and you go through the stack and maybe there's one letter in there that really grabs your attention and you get off track and you go off and do your day and you don't realize, oh my God, there's still 5 or 6 letters I got to look at. It's the same way. Once we get one resentment out of the way, oh man, here's another. There's another one. It's like paying bills. You finally pay a bill, and here comes another one. We never get done paying bills. We never get done with resentments. We will get to the place, and this takes a long time. We get to a place where we can do a 10th step every day, and we don't need the 4th step. But that's not your first time around. I mean, I pray that you can do it the first time around, but I would be lying if I said that's the norm. It is not the norm. The 4th step is heavier than any therapy you'll ever do, one-on-one therapy. It covers more ground. It opens more cans of worms. It is not for the faint of heart. More people quit the 12 steps on the 4th step than any other step. It is not simple. And by the time we get to the 4th step, we're still trying to decide, is God everything? I'm not even sure if I've made that choice yet. And here I am, I'm going into the next thing. I mean, ideally, if you were working on it yourself, you could try to complete each step. and then go on to the next one, and then go on to the next one. But life doesn't seem to work that way. Nobody has that time. So you keep your focus on what you need to focus on today, and you'll know your higher power, your higher self, whatever you call it, knows what you need to do next. And you do need to listen to it. If you're struggling with the fourth step, you need to listen to yourself and see what that's about. Is it because I don't want to be held accountable? Is it because it's too heavy? I need a therapist to help me get through this. What's causing the slowdown? Is it time? Maybe people just don't have that much time. But if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm worth 2 hours a week. I'm going to spend an hour on my fourth step, and I'm going to spend the second hour on whatever step we're on. That would be enough. And if you can't do both, you choose. And if you can't do either, you don't. But truly, don't give up on it because you can't get through that step. Because it's not about getting through a step. It's about getting the effect of all of the steps. They're all important. And sometimes putting one step aside, like the fourth step, maybe even just for a couple, weeks or whatever, put it down. Carol.
Oh, hi, Lisa. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said. I think the fourth step is the most difficult. And who wants to look at their character defects? Who wants to take responsibility for the things that have happened in their life that haven't worked out the way they thought they should? I mean, it's a difficult process. It's not easy at all.
I
But
mean, who was happy when they found out we're responsible for our resentments, not the other person? Anybody? Anybody happy about that? Mm-mm. No, that's huge.
it is.
Most people would walk away with that and say, that's crap. I don't even want to hear that.
Right.
They did XYZ. Okay, they might have.
But I accepted it, I accepted that yes, I am responsible for the failures in my life. There really is a lot of freedom when you get over that. On the other side, when you get to the other side, there is a lot of freedom and a lot of serenity that goes with that, because it's the truth. It's just the truth, and accepting reality as it is, and it's not so horrible. It's
Right.
not so terrible. Life goes on. But I wanted to say that I had a very nice Thanksgiving. We had Thanksgiving here in Florida. I was not with my son. I felt badly about that. But I truly had a very nice Thanksgiving. It was one of the nicest. I spent it with friends that are also snowbirds. They're from Michigan, and they have a place down here, not very far from where we have our place. And there were two other couples, and they were also snowbirds. They were from Michigan. So it was really nice. We talked about our hometown, and then we talked about living in Florida. And it was one of the most enjoyable Thanksgivings. And I think that the work that I'm doing here had a lot to do with it. I had some peace around. The holidays have always been very difficult for me. I was born on Christmas Day, and even though I've always said I love the holidays, I love the music, I love the lights, I love everything about it, but it's always been a stressful time. And I think because I have been, doing this work, it's really helped me stay peaceful.
That's awesome.
And I wanted to say also, I have been saying the resentment prayer every day about asking God to remove my resentments toward the people that I feel the most resentful toward. And I have realized that the person that I would have been most resentful of is myself. I mean, that has just come up over and over and over again. I resent myself, and the pattern that I find is that my entire life I have always undervalued myself, and underloved myself. And at the same time, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to explain, but there's part of me that knows that I put my self-interest first. But there's another part of me that knows that I've always undervalued myself and have second guessed myself and doubted myself. So um, acceptance is the key. It really, for me, it's brought me a lot of peace.
That's excellent. Excellent work, Carol.
Thank you.
You're a hope for other people that are thinking this is not going to happen. It is. It's going to happen.
It's happened for me. It has.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say. Thanks.
That's awesome. Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Rochelle.
Hi, everybody. I was up in Washington with my son and his family, and it was nice. And it gave me pause because they've been married, I think, 19 years. And a lot of things have happened over my husband passed away 9 years ago, and other things have happened. But I said to I used to walk into the situation of I'm up here and they don't appreciate me. And my son's in-laws live right up there. And so there's lots of conversations which make no sense to me because I'm not there and involved in what they're doing during the week and whatever. And this time I really was amazed at how I felt different, that it was just fine, that they're not here in my life all the time either. And I just accepted it. But I will say that where my family relationships, I think I've gotten better and less resentful. I have moved into, I don't know if this is a function of my age, I don't know if everybody's going through this, but institutions and systems, the fact that everything is run by technology. And I'll just give you an example. I had eye surgery scheduled for tomorrow. It was laser. I had to change it because I have a cold. So they sent me all these instructions and 14 pages of medical stuff to fill out, which I did because I'm a rule follower. So I filled it all out and I thought, the doctor never said anything about anesthesia. And there were questions and how do you react to anesthesia? Do you get sick? Blah, 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 blah. And then a whole bunch of don't eat for 8 hours, whatever. So I called because I had another question and I said, by the way, the doctor never said I was. She said, oh, you're not having anesthesia. And I said, well, what about all these questions about not taking my meds? And, she goes, oh, just ignore those. And I said, I'm older. Most people who are having eye surgery for whatever are older. And we're the generation that follows rules. I do believe that because if you don't follow the rules, mom's going to come and get you. And it was like, but then I thought about the serenity prayer. I can't change this. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go in there, wring their necks, and say, somebody fix this system. Because everything now is technology. You can't do anything where if you get a human, you should adopt that person and bring them home with you because you aren't going to get a human. And I realized they're not going to change for me. They are not going to change for me. And today I had 2 lovely conversations with humans on the phone with the doctor's office. And right afterwards, it was a new survey. How did that go? Blah? And I thought, oh, this is why they did that. So I have to change because the serenity prayer says I can't change them. And so I think I never thought about the serenity prayer and my resentments being so tied together. And that resentments don't just have to be about people. They can be about places, things, and institutions. And that's where I am now. And I have to adjust. If I want to see the doctor, I have to do it online. That's the way the world is now. So it's brought up a whole number of resentments for me. So anyway, I'm just happy to see you all. Thank you.
Yeah, and there is a certain amount of adapting that we have to do, but it is mind-blowing some of the AI stuff and all that's going on now. It's just, and yeah, what can we do? What we can't go in and change these major corporations that are making these decisions for us, and it's just it's crazy. It's like you said, try to talk to a human or get something resolved. Can't happen. My bank sent my mortgage twice to my mortgage bank accidentally. And I've been trying for a week to get that money back. It's not a small amount. And it's like trying to get a human being to help me. They're like, well, it happened online. I'm like, okay, it did. I don't even know what state the bank is in. They sell your mortgage. They do whatever they want. It's just, it is very upsetting. But I said, what can I do? What can't I do? And that's the path I followed, what I can do. And that's all I did. And it's crazy. Go ahead, Sarah.
I just wanted to say that I've been taking in everything we've discussed this evening, and especially first of all, I had a lovely Thanksgiving with my family. It was kind of split up in two different Sundays, but it went very well. But I am, as far as the fourth step, I've done the 12 steps several times, and it's interesting you're talking about dishonesty and delusion. That's been a problem with me for many years. And I'm really just trying to be more honest with myself. And what is it? The 3 A's. First, you have to acknowledge what's going on, and then accept it, what the reality is, and then take some action for it. And of course, the program offers us all kinds of actions that we can take. So it's been a growing experience, I think. And also I'm learning, they've always said that when you point your finger at someone or something, there's 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. And I'm finding that I am probably my own worst enemy. I really do cause a lot of issues myself. And an example is that yesterday I went to I have arthritis in both of my knees. Went to the doctor. She gave me an injection in both of the knees to kind of provide some lubrication. It wasn't cortisone, but she told me not, just to go home and take it easy for a few days, not do too much walking. Well, I didn't really follow her instructions. I got in the car. I drove. I went bought a Christmas wreath at Trader Joe's. Then I went and I parked. I found a really neat parking. It was a lovely afternoon, I must say, a lovely, warm, sunny autumn afternoon. But I spent too much time walking on that right knee. And I woke up this morning and it was really bothering me. And it hadn't been bothering me for months. Even I thought, was it from the shot? And I thought, no, you overused it. You overused it. You brought the whole thing on yourself. I do that. I'm just kind of getting to know myself more honestly. Who am I? And I find that the step 4 makes me realize that I have unrealistic expectations and a lot of arrogance, judgment, all kinds of things that have impacted the choices that I make in my life. And if it does help, I still have them. That's another surprise, is that they don't go away, but I'm now aware of them. And I'm conscious of when I'm behaving in a certain way that I need to change. And it sets me on a different path. And today I took it very easy, and my knee's fine. It's going to take a few days for it to get better. But I brought the whole thing on myself. I have nobody to blame but myself. So for me, it's very appropriate that we're talking about dishonesty and and just being accepting my situation and getting out of the denial, because that was even I accept higher power now, but for years I was told that I was stuck in step 3, and I just could not accept a force greater than myself. but I do now, and I have, and has helped me a lot to get through any kind of a difficult situation. I'm not doing it by myself anymore. I have the fellowship, and I have my higher power to help me. So I keep showing up and trying to do. I'm not. Sometimes I feel I'm not doing as much as the rest of you, but I'm doing something, and I'm learning. I'm learning more about myself. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
And don't give yourself a hard time if comparatively speaking, we all have different stories, so our work is going to be different.
Hmm.
We can't say, oh well, she's doing this and she's doing that. Well, we don't have the same experience, so it doesn't play out the same. And the self honesty, for me, that's the really important one. If we can't get honest with ourselves, we're not going to get honest with anyone else, because it has to start with ourselves first.
Yep.
And we also have to give ourselves grace, because we created this ability to lie, and you probably all would agree that we're really good at it because we had to be. It was a self-protective thing that we did, and it's even when we work on it, it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
Our mind says, just lie, just say whatever you have to. Don't get into trouble. Don't start a commotion. Don't make somebody out be upset. So we're fighting that every day, that feeling of my natural reaction, thanks to whatever happened in my life prior, is to lie, even when I don't have to. I can remember I would go to a yard sale and I'd buy something for $1, and I'd get home and my husband would say, well, how much was it? And I'd say 50 cents, because $1 didn't seem good enough and 50 cents seemed okay. It was a 50-cent lie. It wasn't even worth lying. But it wasn't about what I was lying about. It was about myself. It was that feeling of, I feel shame. Shame makes me lie, because if I continue to tell you who I really am, I don't know how I'm going to come out of that. So I'm going to fabricate. I'm going to lie. I'm going to make up stories because my real story doesn't seem good enough. And that self dishonesty is about low self esteem. When we realize it is good enough that I spent $1 versus 50 cents. That is good to me. It has to start with me. Maybe somebody else doesn't think that, but that doesn't really matter. It's more important that I know my own truth. And I've got to be honest with myself. I have to say, what is this really? What is this real? What's the honesty about this to me? And then I might decide, okay, I'm going to be honest with me, but I'm not going to be honest with them yet, because I still feel vulnerable, or I'm still feeling like I'm going to be shamed when they hear the real truth. So this is a leftover from many years ago, from a lifetime that we don't live right now, but it's still there. It's like the freckles on our face is still there. We can cover them up with makeup, but we still have that. We still have that defect, and we can come to a very clear place about those defects. But on a random day, they can kick back in, and we're back in the lie. It's so easy. Just that moment of feeling vulnerable can turn us into liars again. The dishonesty, the protection. So go easy on yourselves if you're doing this part of the lesson where we're talking about dishonesty. And yeah, dishonesty is not the best way to live your life. But there was a time it might have saved our lives, especially for those of us who grew up in dysfunctional households. There were oftentimes we had to not tell the truth because we knew the consequences were not rational. So we felt we had to do that. And given the opportunity, I would probably do the same thing because I protected myself. But we're grown-ups now and we're adults now, and we have to learn how to be honest. It doesn't come naturally. We already took the opportunity and said, no, I'm gonna lie when I have to. I'm gonna do that self-protection thing. So it takes work. It's not an automatic for us. I'm pretty sure it's not an automatic for most people walking on the planet, whether there's a disease issue or not. But that dishonesty and the shame that goes along with why we do the dishonesty. It's really important to not add more shame. We're dishonest because we had to be. We don't have to be now, but that doesn't mean it's not difficult to stop doing it. It's very difficult. It'd be like asking somebody who's right-handed to start using their left hand. It's difficult. It takes time. And that there has to be grace in that period of learning. I'm learning how. I can make amends and I can apologize for all my dishonesties. And that's huge because when you apologize, it brings it out into the open and it's able to heal. When we keep it inside and we let the shame boil on down, it's just going to keep going. So we bring it out into the light, and we have to be willing to handle the consequences of doing that, because sooner or later it catches up. It always catches up. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns, comments, anything about the past few lessons? Because we're pretty much done with step 4, which you can all say yay formally. You still all have to do your own. But we will move on as a group to the next step. So if you're struggling, it's okay. Don't let it deter you from finishing. Absolutely don't.
I'm exhausted. I'm going to take my leave.
Go ahead, Joel. We're
Yeah,
probably gonna
good night,
leave a little early anyways.
Yeah.
If you
Good
have
night,
any
everyone.
questions,
See you
just let
next
me
week.
know. See you next week. We actually can leave if everybody feels good with what they've accomplished and then there's no questions. I don't want to leave anyone vulnerable. If you go
Thanks,
ahead, Dee Dee.
everybody. I'm just saying thank you. Great to see everybody. Thanks so much, Lisa. Welcome back.
Thank you, Dee Dee. So we'll do the Serenity Prayer. I always forget the name of that. I don't know why. If you guys want to unmute, we can do it together. Oh, I also will send out, we're not going to do Christmas time and New Year's and all that classes, of course, but I'll send that out with the homework, the dates. So God, please grant me
God, grant serenity
serenity
to
accept
accept
the
the things I cannot change,
change,
courage
courage
to
to
change
change
I
the things
can,
I
things we
can,
and
can,
and the
wisdom to
and
know the
wisdom to know the
difference.
difference.
know the
Amen.
difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye,
Thank
Hey,
Lisa.
you,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great week.
Good night.
Don't worry
Thank you.
about
Thank
homework. No homework worries.
Thank you.
Not high school. No one's in trouble.
Thank you.